Good morning, everybody. 10th of June, 11 a.m. Central European time. How are you all doing? Bitcoin, where did it go? It went above, only just, the $103,000 to $108,000 range that I was talking about yesterday. But remember recency bias. We're going to talk about not only the Bitcoin chart today, But I want to show you the Ethereum chart as well, because as with all things, when we go down a little bit, the world is ending. And when we go up just a bit, everybody expects us to go to the moon. And I am here to be Mr. Boring today. I'm going to go through some Bitcoin news. We're going to talk about Ethereum. We think the change that I have been talking about for months is starting to appear in the news. And that's a kind of move from being speculation to TradFi. We're going to talk about lots of other things as well. I think we've got some news about XRP. We do. We have some news about XRP. We have some news about a Binance IPO. Binance IPO. Is that going to be a winner for you? We don't know, but we'll have a look at that. We're going to look at the UK. We're going to look at Paraguay, and then we're going to look at 5 in 4. What is that about? Well, we're going to let you know. A lot to talk about, and we're going to do the Bitcoin chart and the Ethereum chart. I haven't done them in a while. And a few good mornings, of course. Bullish Bull is back. Danny is back. Danny, I have your email, and I've looked at your email 3 times. It's not that I haven't replied to you yet. It's the fact it takes a long time for me to think through the best bit of non-financial advice I can give you. That's the problem, because it would be easy for me to reply and say, absolutely fine, but I want to go through it properly, and that requires me to have a good look at it a couple of times. I did this when people were sending me things a few years ago. I'm going to do the same thing with you. Look at it, go away, sleep on it, look at it, go away and sleep on it. So I'm almost ready to reply to you. Tariq, good morning to you, sir. I hope you are well. Velvet Rope is in chat. Hidden is back. Very sorry I missed the DM. Yeah, well, we're going to give away some prizes on Wednesday. Maybe you can win then as well. And Kishani's in chat. I hope you are all well. Now, on the right-hand side, you will see this. My finger disappear. Maple Quiz Night is on Wednesday. That's tomorrow night. And we have some incredibly exciting breaking news for absolutely everybody. We've got new microphones, and we had a phone call from UPS literally 10 minutes ago saying that they were going to be delivered today. So we're going to have some brand new Rode Pro microphones for tomorrow night. So that will help with certain people not being able to hear our voice very quickly. And I have ordered a Sennheiser for myself, like the Oracle one. So you'll be able to hear these beautiful tones in 4D, 4K. I don't know what the audio version is of that. So that's it for the start of the show. I think we should probably get into it. Otherwise, we're going to be here forever, aren't we? And we don't want to do that. Let me bring up the charts. I know a lot of you are excited. It was a breakout based on some of the news I said, which was basically, how is Bitcoin going to move up? It's going to need a macro event. I don't think that macro event is interest rate cuts. That's what I said yesterday, and I still haven't changed my mind. But China and America are meeting in London. I think we've got a tweet about that. And there's some other things that have come out that maybe have made people a little bit more bullish. But we haven't broken out of anything. Okay, we're not $125,000. So we're going to have a look at that in a minute. Good morning, KB. I hope you are well. And there must be a crypto term, like I hope your longs are beautiful and fruitful and your shorts are fast and swift. Maybe that's a term I should use for KB. Right then, look at Bitcoin. It doesn't move, then it moves violently. 3% almost, 109,000. It did go above 110,000 very briefly, but Ethereum, not a bad move, but it's moved from its lows to its highs. And I'm going to show you what I'm talking about in a minute. So again, still in the range, but I tweeted on the 23rd of May with my price predictions for the end of, I don't know if it was the 1st of July, actually, for the end of June, 1st of July. And I had some price targets in there for Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and a few other coins. I'll bring them up maybe on tomorrow or Friday's show. There's no emergency with that. But I don't, if things go to plan, I think we'll hit those targets. And by the way, I did tweet out the Elon Musk spat with Donald Trump. Tesla went down to $270, $265, wherever it went. And I tweeted, A great time to buy, not financial advice. And as of last night when I checked, we were at $305, $310. You'd have made 15% in what? A week on a Tesla stock? I don't think that was a bad shout. Emotional trading is something you should try and look into. I don't know who writes about it. It's something I've been doing for years and years and years. A bit of news comes out, which isn't necessarily bad news, and the stock tanks 10%. If you think a spat on X devalues Tesla by 15%, then you need to see somebody, because that's not how it works. If there was a problem with the cars, if there was a problem with the software, if there was a fundamental problem, then yes, but not a spat with Donald Trump. He's not going to ban Tesla in America, and they're going to kiss and make up. It's already on the cards. I think it's a play, but there you go. XRP coming back in over $2.20, $2.27 again. Next move for XRP would be $2.50 if we keep going up. BNB is not having a bad old year, is it? Solana, again, a few targets here. I think 168, 175 if we go up. A lot of these gains, however, if you look in the 7 days, you'll see BNB is still down a touch. Solana is still down a touch. Doge is still down a touch. So is Cardano. So the only real gainers of the last 7 days in the top 8 or 9 is Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP. In fact, the top 3 cryptocurrencies are gaining. BNB isn't, Solana isn't, Dogecoin isn't, Tron is up a touch. The top 10 haven't done great. Again, we've just recovered back to where we were a week ago, except for those 3. Not saying that's a bad thing or a good thing. What's volume? I expect volume to be high. Only 133 billion. That's a big move for $133 billion in volume. I'd expect that to be a lot higher. So a low volume move. Okay. Right then. Coins that are gaining. The coin that I won't mention is top. DEXI. Remember, DEXI was, I think, was one of the... Wasn't that down like 12 or 13% when we looked yesterday? That's back up. Aave is up. Dog with Hat is up. Pudgy Penguins. What do we say? Bitcoin pumps, meme coin pumps. I'm not into meme coins that much, but there we go. Again, Hyperliquid. I just don't see this running. I don't see it running. Pepe is up. I think there's a golden cross forming on Pepe, according to James Winner, whatever he's called. He tweeted before I came out. Bonk is up. A lot of meme coins in the gainers. I don't like that. I prefer serious projects to be gaining. What's losing? Not really an awful lot. 3 coins down. The rest of them are stable coins. It's been a good day. Take the wins. Take the wins. But we're only at $109,000. Let's have a deal. Let's have a deal that when we hit $125,000, I will be happy. Okay? That's the deal. $125,000, I'll be happy. Not happy now. We're at 109,000. I'll show you the Bitcoin chart in a minute and I'll explain why I am not happy. And again, I want to be wrong, and I want to be wrong sooner rather than later. I don't want to be wrong in November. I want to be wrong now. I want an all-time high before it gets to July. That's what I want. And then we can have an August and September dip, as we've had so many more times. And then I want everyone to call a double top, and then I want a November, December all-time high again, maybe 150,000. That's what I want. I've said it in videos. I'll keep saying it. I want a top. I wanted a top in May. We're now in June and we got a top. I now want a top in November as well, but I think we're going to get another dip in the middle. Now then, this is something you also need to bear in mind. You have no benchmark for how well Bitcoin is doing. And I appreciate that. So to get a benchmark, compare it to other industries and other assets. Bitcoin, especially the BlackRock Bitcoin ETF, went through $70 billion, is the fastest ETF to ever hit that in 341 days, less than a year. 5 times faster than the old record held by gold. This is the comparison that you need to show to people. The same way, if you were to say, show me 2 things that represent Bitcoin to you, I wouldn't go off and show them 21 million Bitcoin or a picture of Satoshi. I'd show them the top 10 crypto assets in the world, and I'd show them this. Why? Because they both benchmark Bitcoin against gold, against Apple, against Nvidia, against things that people understand. That's why I would show them these two charts. This chart is incredible. I knew Bitcoin would do well, and I did hold off being bullish on this, by the way, because the way that gold hit it, you need to take into account inflation. You know, gold was hitting these figures when the dollar was worth more. Bitcoin is hitting it when the dollar is worth less, so it's going to go up faster. It's the same way when you look at films, you know, Avatar hit $1 billion, or it was the first film to hit $1 billion, whatever it was. But then you look at Star Wars. If you take inflation into account, how do they all do? And I still think Bitcoin would have blown everything out of the water and maybe done a 3x faster, not a 5x. But still, those charts say everything you need to show to anybody to tell them how Bitcoin is doing. That chart that compares it to Apple and Nvidia and gold, that's the most important chart you can show to somebody that knows nothing about Bitcoin. Because if you start going down the technical route, you've lost them. Trade talks between America and China have begun in the UK. There's little piggy in the background. Again, as I said yesterday, don't expect answers today. Trump has allegedly eased off on some of the tariffs to do with semiconductors and something else, minerals maybe. So he has eased off a little bit. I think it's going to come to a, you know, America are going to come out and Trump's going to come out and say this is the best trade deal America's ever had. China are going to come out and tell its people that they've got America where they want them. Both people are going to win. Taylor Swift. Forbes said artists like Taylor Swift could use tokenization to let fans own a piece of their music. Fans buying song shares, artists earning direct music. RWA is heating up. Now, I used to have, until I sold them all, I used to own various different stocks and shares. And one of them was called something like Hippo something or other, I can't remember the name of it. And what they would do is they would buy back catalogues of artists. You've probably heard of some of them, like I think Taylor Swift's was sold, Justin Bieber's was sold, you know, loads of old bands, they sold their catalogue to Hippo something or other. Anyway, the point of the matter is that all the royalties would then go to this investment trust. And the artist would get $100 million, $200 million up front, and that's what it was. Now, this is such a complex system to put into play that can work absolutely perfectly. Okay, I absolutely think this will work. And the way I see it working is very simple. You would have a pump.fund for artists. And that artist would say, I want $100 million for my playlist. And people would then go and, not donate, allocate a certain amount to that. When it hits $100 million, the actual contract would then be exchanged between the artist and the holders of that project. Now, it will all work once you have a central figure or central body in America, probably, that would deal with all the royalties, minus 1 or 2% going to this. How would it work? Very simply, you would hold the shares. It would be called Swift. You would then be airdropped, I imagine, USDC. That's how it works. It's the simplest thing in the world. It already exists. Already exists. That company that I invested in 8-10 years ago, they're already doing it. So this would work perfectly. Do I think it's a good idea? Probably not, no. I don't think it's a good idea unless it's a major artist. And what happens if it's a major artist? It will come at an absolute premium. You'll be lucky to get 3 or 4% return, if that. That's all. But I think it's absolutely set up to be a success. That absolutely set up to be a success. Right then, let's move on very quickly. Trump accounts for children. Again, the federal government will make a one-time contribution of $1,000 into a tax-deferred account. And I think I tweeted down here, should have given them $1,000 in Bitcoin. Imagine if Trump had come out yesterday and said, we're going to give every child $1,000 in Bitcoin. Now, Robinhood have already created a Trump account where you can go and invest in it. So I imagine the people that get this $1,000 will be able to put it into Bitcoin. So maybe that is possible. I quite like this idea. Good morning, Manjeet. I hope you are well. Don't forget to sell. 125k, I want you to wear your baseball cap on backwards. Do you know what? I have always said that I will have a day where I do one of two things. I talk about myself in the third person, which really annoys the Oracle, okay? And it will annoy the hell out of you. That's one thing. I see people do it all the time. I see streamers do it all the time, and it's so narcissistic. So I would sit here and say, when Mike says something is right, Mike says something is right. And it makes my skin crawl. That's one. Wearing a baseball cap on backwards would make me look probably like Will Ferrell. Now then, this is something I tweeted out yesterday myself, and that is this. Everybody's tweeting this saying there's a 99.9% chance of a rate cut. Nobody knows how to read a chart. There is a 0.1% chance we see a rate cut on the 18th of June. 99.9% chance is what everybody else is telling you. The macro is this week. 11th, Powell is speaking on the 18th. So tomorrow we hear about the CPI, we hear about everything else. The most important Fed meeting in history is next week. Bitcoin will want more from the China and US tariffs or a conflict resolution soon. Also still expecting a summer lull and a plethora of crypto Twitter to call a double top when we come down in September. Target top for Bitcoin is November. Again, I don't put these kind of things out very often, but sometimes I just want a placeholder to remind everybody, like I did with the thing about Tesla, which I think I put up again. You don't see them very often. You don't see those kind of emotional trades very often. But when you do, put $1,000 in, $500 in, give it a week, take your money out, take your 15% out, make $150. It's the easiest thing in the world. Easiest thing in the world. It's such an easy play. Unless there is a fundamental problem, it's always going to play out like that. Now, I'm going to show you this article, and then we're going to have a look at the Bitcoin chart. Manjeet, you are not late. You are like a wizard. You are neither late or early. You're there when you're meant to be there. That's what I would say to you. Right then, 1,045 Bitcoins bought. What does Strategy know? It's been DCAing in for the last 2 years, you Amir. Strategy's latest massive Bitcoin buy has the crypto world buzzing. No, it doesn't. Is this a bold move, or do they have insider knowledge about what's coming next? Who would they have insider knowledge from? Amir? Do you know what? According to the documents filed with the SEC, Strategy purchased this Bitcoin at an average of 105,000. The company's now got 582,000 Bitcoin, costing 40.8 billion, an average price of only 70,000 Bitcoin. So what are they up now? They are up 50%. So they have made $20 billion in profit, unrealized profit. Not a bad move. The purchase comes as no surprise. This is a terrible article. I should have read this one. I didn't think I needed to read it one, but there we go. Again, we are at 109. I think we went over 110,000, 110,300 we got to. 111,000 is in May. We don't need to know more about this. This is nonsense. We don't care about this. Basically, for those of you that don't know, their Strategy is sitting on billions and their dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin, and that is pretty much all you need to know. And this article, or this section, is called Stop Selling. Okay? Stop selling your Bitcoin. Sell whatever else you want, but don't sell your Bitcoin. Now is not the time to sell your Bitcoin. 2025 is probably not the time to sell your Bitcoin. Maybe 2030, maybe 2029, something like that. But now is certainly not the time to sell Bitcoin. It's an appreciating asset that's been picked up by institutional investors, and sovereign states have said this yesterday. It's not the time to sell. Now, where are we? We're at 109,000. Now, I also put this up here, and again, this was a finger in the air price prediction from 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, which is 69,300 times 1.61, gives you 111,573. That was my all-time high for Bitcoin. That was what I set 2.5 years ago. Now, we are $2,400 away from that. We are 1%, 1.5% away from that. And I want nothing more than to break this. Because, do you remember last year when Bitcoin did this? And it did it all the way until October. And then it went up. I just want to see, a move like that. I want to see 115, 114,000 to get rid of that. I want that. I want to be wrong more than you can ever know. But if you look at where we went to 111,300, 111,400, something like that. And I just want to see it break. For my peace of mind, I want to see it break. Because if it doesn't, and we go into this kind of movement, so let's say we do come down here, people are going to say that we've had a double top. And I don't want that. I want to break it today. I want some news to come out from America and China today that's going to break that 111,000. We're there. We're almost there. We've had the short squeeze. It's ripped us to the upside. Okay, if you look at the RSI down here, it is not super high. It's not super high, so we could do it. However, if we don't and we do come down, we could start to form a channel where we go between 100,000 and 110,000 or 109,000. Again, it's early days. I could be completely wrong, but just break 111,000. Go to 112,500 for me tomorrow night. Get the CPI in. CPI surprises everybody. Comes in at exactly the same rate as it was, or a little bit lower, or lower than predictions, and I would be super happy to break up. But we've had a short squeeze. What normally follows is a period of consolidation or a little bit of a move down. So don't expect us to stay here. We could come back down to 106,500, for example, which isn't really that far away, but that's where we could come down to. Any lower, maybe 103,000. But this is the range that we've got at the minute. And yes, we're above the range, but we need more momentum, and I don't think we've got it at the minute. This is more speculation than anything else, in my humble opinion. So get excited. We're over $100,000 for Bitcoin. I'd have snapped your hand off 2 years ago. But again, maybe what we do is maybe we actually form support at that price there, which is about 106,000. Maybe we form support at 106,500. Why have I got such an itchy nose? I haven't got a Zelensky problem, that's for sure. Right then, should we move on? Now, I have been saying this to you for 4 months, 5 months, most of this year. I think I've been saying this to you. And now the press are starting to cover it. Ethereum is beginning a quiet shift from hype to financial backbone. Now, clearly, Alexander watches me. That's where he's got this information from. So if you are watching, hello, Alexander. And if you're not, and you've come to this conclusion, I was saying this 5 years ago. Bernstein analysts suggest that Ethereum's utility is becoming more apparent, moving beyond speculative use towards real-world financial applications. Unlike Bitcoin, seen as gold, Ethereum underpins DeFi, stablecoins, turning into a critical settlement layer for the evolving crypto economy. Data shows Ethereum ETFs are growing. We've already told you about that. And we know, or we have said, that we're going to go over $3,000 the second that we get Ethereum staking on the ETFs, because it's going to flood in. It's going to flood in. It's not going to go to $5,000, but it's certainly going to go above $3,000, which is a 10% move. It's not a lot. Above $3,000. We're going to look back in a few years' time and laugh when we could have bought Ethereum at $1,700. It's the chosen one, okay? It's going over to the dark side, okay? It's going to be consumed by TradFi, but that's okay, because that's what it's there for. It has a mission now in its life. Before, when it was trying to do ETFs, it was like trying to get Ronaldo to play centre-half. It was never going to be centre-half. Put Ronaldo in goal, he was never going to be a goalkeeper. He could have a crack at it. He's never going to be a goalkeeper. You have to play the right players in the right positions. We know what Solana is, it's retail. We know what Bitcoin is, it's a store of value. We know what Ethereum is, it's for finance and TradFi. We know that now. It's all becoming very, very clear. They were jostling for a time, but now it's pretty much concrete. Look at Maple Finance. Where did Maple Finance begin? They began on Ethereum. Where did they move to once they'd built up their liquidity and their TVL? They moved to Solana. Ondo started on Ethereum. Where did it go? Solana. Every TradFi company that comes to crypto goes to Ethereum. It's the chosen one. It's default. When you go to your little drop-down menu of which platform, which blockchain should we use, Ethereum will be the first on that list because everybody else has used it. So Ethereum is where everybody begins. They land. It's like the base. I think that everybody is sleeping on Ethereum. And I think they're sleeping on Ethereum is because they've seen all of these memes about the price of Ethereum being $2,400 for the last 6 years. But they're missing the point. They're missing the point that now, this time is adoption. Not different, this time is adoption. So you've got Chainlink, Visa, MasterCard, BlackRock, the other one that begins with M, can't remember their name. You've got them all coming to Ethereum. You've got the real world asset projects, all on Ethereum or Ethereum layer 2s. It's where the action is. So Ethereum's future lies in the power and the ability to power the next generation of financial tools. As real world integration increases, Ethereum's role could expand far beyond what price speculation alone can offer. I don't think there's been price speculation on Ethereum for the last 4 years. I think it's just been stagnant. We don't need to read any more about that. I think the case for Ethereum is stronger by the partnership, not by the day, but by the partnership. If we see a BlackRock 24/7 blockchain-based stock exchange, it's going to be on Ethereum, and then Ethereum is going to be the de facto and the de jure. Right then, this is the Ethereum chart. Just wait for it to load. Remember, if you've got any comments, drop them in chat. If I have 20,000 Maple drips, how many solidified syrup tokens would I get at the end of the season? Is the amount of coins determined by the price of syrup at the end of the season? That is a very good question. That's such a good question that I am going to ask the boys in the syrup ambassador group that question. I'll find out for you, Danny, and I'll ping you on Telegram the answer to that question. Right, this is the Ethereum chart. Again, we're all super happy because we're at $2,700, and we've covered this before. We really were at death's door down here. Was it 17? It was actually $1,500, and I kept telling you we're going up. We're going up. Every time we did this, we're going up. We're going to hang on. We're going to hang on, and then finally we broke out, and then we broke up. Now, the move. If you remove the bull market support band from this chart, it's a lot less telling than if you have it on. And the reason is, when you see what Ethereum has done, you think, why is it at these prices? Why has it gone here? Well, it's pretty simple, really. This was support. This is resistance. It can't get back above $2,700. But it also isn't falling below $2,400. And why is it not falling below $2,400? Because I am a simple man, as the TikToker says. Okay? I look at this thing down here, which is the moving average. And if you look, Ethereum has used it so well for support. So well for support. So now we're stuck. So what do we need to do? We need to break it. But where do we go when we break it? $3,000. You can go look over here. Look over there. $3,000 is the target. That's a 13% move for Ethereum if we can break it. But if you look at the pattern and we don't break it, we're just going to come straight back down here again. We're going to keep doing this until it breaks. What can break us to the upside? CPI, tariffs, major announcement from BlackRock or somebody about a DEX that they're building on Ethereum, Vitalik announcing the next change to Ethereum after Petra. All of those things can move Ethereum up. The staking is the massive one. honesty, I cannot explain to you how bullish I am about staking for Ethereum and Solana. If you look at what a bank account pays you, 0.5%, 1%. If you look at what dividends pay you, they pay you about, in England, maybe 3 or 4%. In America, 1 to 2%. Some examples are a lot higher, of course, but on average, Americans pay less dividends than Europe and the UK. So if we offer you a product, which is Ethereum, and you look at the price action of Ethereum, you're not really going to buy into it because it doesn't look too good. And then suddenly the narrative switches. BlackRock are going to build a 24/7, 365 stock exchange on Ethereum, and you're going to earn 3% a year or 2.5% a year for holding it. That is going to be that range there. Maybe I'll put a little circle on the chart. That is where we should go. I'll leave that there and we'll come back to it. When we're at $1,800 and I'm wrong, we'll still show this chart with that circle on it, by the way. But that's the bullish case for Ethereum. And I am bullish on Ethereum. I've been bullish on Ethereum. It makes up a part of the bag that we've got, the $15,000 to $1 million portfolio that we've got. It's going to happen. It just takes time. Things take time. Everybody wants an overnight success. And you have to spend 5-10 years to become an overnight success. Elon Musk likely to embrace XRP as the backbone of upcoming payments platform XMoney. Now, this was not on my bingo card. This was not something I was expecting at all. I was expecting Elon to look at either using an existing blockchain like Doge or get Doge to switch to proof of stake and use Doge that way, or something else. But I wasn't expecting this to happen. And this is quite a big statement if it's true. This is a big statement for XRP. It's a massive statement for X, in my opinion. Joshua Dalton, founder of blockchain startup Triblu, has suggested that tech billionaire Elon Musk might soon embrace XRP as the backbone of XMoney. The assertion adds fuel to ongoing speculation about which digital assets or asset could anchor the ambition to turn X into an all-in-one communication and payment super app. I've got such an itchy nose. It can only be hay fever, I imagine. Musk will do anything to position XRP as the central currency of the platform. I believe Elon Musk will do whatever it takes to make Ripple's XRP the chosen one, while Eric Trump, Donald Trump Jr. and Trump watch World Liberty Finance and Bitcoin collapse before their eyes. What a load of nonsense. There's no official indication that Musk is planning such a move. The idea has found traction on XRP. I think this has some legs. Absolutely. If you're going to use a blockchain for your platform, you're not going to use Bitcoin, you're not going to use Ethereum. Your options really are BNB Chain, Solana, or XRP. They would be my three. Now, who has the best on and off ramps? I would argue XRP and Solana have the best on and off ramps, connections to Visa and MasterCard and things like that. So I can see this happening, and it probably won't take anybody by surprise if it's announced. What would it do to the price of XRP? Well, it's not going to go to $25 or $589. I'd imagine this might go somewhere towards $250, $260. This isn't a pump that's going to send it to the moon, but this is entirely possible. I'd say there's probably a 70% chance of that happening. Absolutely. And again, if you've held the bag of XRP as long as we have, then you've already made a 6 or a 7 or an 8x from where it was when we were telling you right at the very beginning where we think it was going to go. We had people, maybe not last year, the year before, saying, why are you buying XRP? Don't buy XRP. We stuck to our guns. If we were showing conviction in a $1 million market cap project, I'd have a different opinion because that's a very low market cap project. But we're talking about XRP. Their battle chest, their ability to take on the SEC, their ability to make offers on companies like Circle. It's all there for them. They have enough money to make this succeed. Now then, this is an interesting one, especially if you are a holder of BNB. Binance CEO Richard Tang says any public listing must be approved at the highest levels. Okay, now, what does that say? What doesn't that say to you? That doesn't say that there are no plans. That doesn't say it's not possible. Who bought 10%? I think it was 10%. Was it 10% share in Binance, or was it just a share of Binance? Trump or World Liberty Financial or whoever it was, Trump Social, Trump Media, I don't know who it was. Somebody associated with Trump invested in Binance probably 3 or 4 months ago. Trump is going to want his money back. How does Trump get his money back? Via an IPO of the biggest exchange in the world. So I think there is a distinct probability that this could happen in the future. In an interview with The Street, when asked about a potential IPO, I'm too old to say never say never. He added that any decision of this scale are very important corporate decisions that we have to discuss at the board of directors level and discuss with the shareholders what's the intention. Tang was appointed CEO in November 2023, taking over from CZ. He previously left Binance Singapore, served as the CEO of Abu Dhabi Global Market. He is not CZ. In my opinion, he doesn't have the gravitas of CZ. But what I would say to argue with myself is, who out there has the gravitas of CZ? There are very few people in the world in crypto that have the pull of CZ. Very few. Michael Saylor, maybe. CZ. How many people are they? The Sergei Nazarovs, the Anatolis, the Vitaliks. They're not really. They don't have the gravitas. When CZ and Michael Saylor and a few others speak, people listen. The other category, which is probably the other list, the Trump family members, the people I've just mentioned, they are mentioned in the news, but they don't make the news. CZ makes the news. Richard, unfortunately, is a CEO. He is not a founder. They are two totally different people. I've said this about Vitalik in the past. Vitalik is a founder. He shouldn't be the CEO. They're two separate mindsets. You need Richard in the company to be the CEO. Because founders don't make great CEOs. They make great ideas and they implement great ideas and they build a team to build those great ideas. But at the end of the day, you wouldn't get your chef to bring the food to the table. You don't get a founder to take a company to market. Very few founders of anything are really successful. Richard, what's he called? Richard from Virgin, he's one. Bill Gates is another. Jeff Bezos, very few. And look at the value of their companies. There's very few founders that make good CEOs. They do exist, but they're not the best. And Richard is a CEO. And I probably shouldn't have compared him to CZ. That's an unfair comparison. But he is not a CZ because he's a CEO. And he's doing a good job of the ship at Binance. And it's all well and good slating the listings on Binance, but what do you want them to do? Not list projects? Maybe their listing process was poor. What did they do to fix that? They introduced Binance Alpha. Binance Alpha is a place where they pre-list tokens so they can see what kind of interest is it, see what happens to them. And it's kind of like a waiting room, a dentist's waiting room. They put people in there, they see how many tokens are scared and run out, they see how many stay, and then they add them to Binance. Very, very simple. But again, I would say that there is a good chance that there is an IPO before Trump steps down. I think there'll be an IPO. Absolutely. Now then, let's move on very quickly. The UK lifts crypto ban. Will London become Europe's Bitcoin hub? Now, London is taking an absolute hammering in the press. It's taking a hammering from everybody. Why? Because you have a mayor and you have a setup there that isn't working properly. And they're trying to be socialist in one of the most capitalist cities in the world. And that's not going to work. And it's causing a lot of friction in London. And for me, London is losing its shine. Being a crypto hub would be great, but I would move it slightly out of London. Be near London, but don't be in London, because London needs a reset. It needs a new mayor. It needs new life breathing into it, and it needs to stop ripping people off. There are companies leaving London, big companies leaving London. They're listing in Hong Kong, they're listing in Frankfurt, they're listing in America, which obviously is always the first choice, but they're not. London really isn't doing very well, and it needs a change. But they've lifted this ban on retail access to ETNs and ETFs. And I think this is the right time to do it. I think it was the right time to block it. I think when it comes to sensible decisions, the UK is always far ahead of America. Way, way, way ahead of America. Because I don't think there is as much political pressure in the UK as there is in America. Look at Powell and Trump at the minute. Trump is hell-bent on getting a 1% cut in interest rates, and Powell is holding the line. If CPI is higher tomorrow, Bitcoin will come down a little bit, and Powell will not cut rates. Then we are going to see a Powell-Trump war. This is on the cards. And for those of you people saying that Trump will just sack Powell, don't you think he would have sacked Powell by now? Powell is here until May 2026. He's got 11 months left. There would have to be a court proceeding to get rid of Powell. That will take forever. So I don't see Powell leaving, and I don't see Powell bowing to pressure. Much as we want Bitcoin at $500,000, it's not going to happen. The UK is different. It doesn't really have that. They've separated the power. The Bank of England has its own power. The FCA has its own power. And the government issues directions, but it doesn't tell them what to do as such. And this is a great move for the UK. And I want to be as positive as I can about the UK. But we currently have the most inept Chancellor of the Exchequer that I think I've seen in my lifetime. And I'm 50. And I have seen some terrible, terrible chancellors. But I've seen some brilliant chancellors as well. Nigel Lawson, brilliant chancellor. And the issue isn't that they don't get numbers. They don't get how markets work, and they don't understand anything. And crypto, the one thing I hold on to for the UK is that they don't sell their 60,000 Bitcoin. That is the only thing I'm hanging my hat on. If they sell that 60,000 Bitcoin and then claim to be a crypto hub, I've lost all hope in them. And they need a new direction. I think the parties are tired. Same in America, the Democrats, Republicans, parties are tired. They're not fit for purpose anymore. The UK Labour and Conservative parties, they're not fit for purpose. But this isn't a political debate. This is meant to be basically to say that the UK is doing the right thing at the right time. Why would you ban retail from accessing the 5th largest asset in the world? That's something you do when you are China or Russia. We are not China and Russia. We are meant to be an open free market with protections. A lot of people have a go at the banks. I'm not allowed to deposit 5,000, 10,000, 50,000 pounds into Binance, blah, 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 blah. There's reasons for that. I'm not allowed to go into a bank and withdraw 20,000 pounds in cash. There's reasons for that as well. We have to have safeguards, but still allow for the freedom of money, movement of money. And as long as you can prove what you're doing with it, that's fine. But there are reasons. You can have a free market and you can still have safeguards. Now, Paraguay. This was my headline of the day, Fall Guy. Paraguay's presidency swiftly debunks the Bitcoin legal tender hoax, confirms X-account hack. For those of you that don't know, the original article of this, by the way, was that Paraguay had made Bitcoin legal tender. In fact, it hadn't made Bitcoin legal tender. Their account had been hacked. Very similar to how the SEC's account got hacked. The post included a false plan to establish a Bitcoin treasury and add $5 million in Bitcoin. The compromised account displayed an image titled Presidential Speech about Bitcoin legislation as legal tender. The text, attributed to Pina, claimed that a new law formally recognizes Bitcoin as legal tender. Anyway, again, one of these things, in this day and age, it's going to be quite hard for us to detect deepfakes. It's going to be quite hard for us to know whether these things are true or not. What I would say is, Whenever we see an announcement that seems too good to be true, it's normally too good to be true. And there's very few times where something is announced that is too good to be true, that is true, without a time frame attached to it. And what I mean by that is they signpost things. If America is going to buy Bitcoin for its strategic reserve, it's not going to do it the day it's announced. If they're going to have legal tender in Paraguay for Bitcoin, they're going to announce it that from the 1st of July, the 1st of September, the 1st of January next year, there will be Bitcoin as legal tender. They will announce it in advance. So don't rush into these things. Think first, has this been hacked? Have they been hacked? You know, if CZ tweets out, join my Discord channel, I'm giving everybody $10,000. Do you honestly think that that's something that's going to happen? No. So think first, wait, act later. Nobody is going to do an airdrop within an hour. Nobody is going to get you to fill out a form and you've got 3 hours to do it. If they're sensible projects and it's a sensible offer, they will give you a month or 2 or 3 weeks or whatever else it might be. Just be careful. And this is really clever. Now, there was a Bitcoin family that we've been following for 2.5 years. What they've done is quite clever. They've hidden their seed phrase in 4 different continents after kidnap threats forced a radical security shift. Now, we talked about, I made a video, was it called Hatchet Kidnapping or something like that? Where they were basically targeting crypto people and kidnapping them, taking the seed phrase off them, taking their Bitcoin off them. What absolutely shocked me was when Vitalik went to one of the conferences about 3 or 4 months ago, and he literally got out of an Uber and walked across the road and walked down the street. I don't know what Vitalik is worth. Let's just say he's worth $100 million. Nobody worth $100 million in crypto should be walking around the streets on their own. That's a fact. If you live in a really poor area, think about this. If you live in a really poor area of your country, or you live in a really poor country, and you've got $5,000 in crypto, think to yourself, am I worth kidnapping for $5,000? Or am I worth kidnapping on the belief that I have more? That's what I would say to myself. The next thing I would do is stop talking to anybody and everybody about crypto. If they come to you, give them advice. I would stop telling your family, I would stop telling your friends, and I would tell your family, don't tell anybody that I'm in crypto. Because, and I've said this a couple of weeks ago when we covered it, this kind of stuff, this family, are being targeted. Other families have been targeted in Paris. I'm sure it's going to happen in London. It's already happened in New York. This is one of the next big crime waves. It happened in Canada, I believe, a few months ago, maybe end of last year. People were getting broken into and being kidnapped and stuff like that. Just be careful, okay? Even if someone held me at this point, I can't give them more than what's on my phone. They eliminated hardware wallets because they were terrified of remote access or backdoor into the firmware. One significant change was the Ledger controversy. We know about that. I'm not even going to pronounce the name. The T family sold everything they owned in 2017 to buy Bitcoin and went traveling with their 3 kids. They've been threatened and forced to stop. Okay? Now, I would say, conservatively, they bought 100 Bitcoin at the time. So that means they've got what? $10 million? They've got about $10 million. And this is targeting them. I am sure if you ask some of the people on here, if people know what they do, I'm sure they would say no. I'm sure they would say, nobody knows what I do. I keep it to myself. And that's the best way to be. So if you are Mags or Danny or Tariq or anybody else that watches on a regular basis, what you need to do is very simple. In my opinion, change all of your online names. So, most names in chat are personas. They're not real names. KB, not a real name. Cyberpunk Danny, not a real name. I'd keep it like that. I would tell your family, in all seriousness, don't tell anybody that I'm in crypto. Now, we are different. Clearly, we are different because we sit here and you see this face, okay? There are lots and lots of streamers. My nose will not stop itching. There are lots and lots of streamers who will not show their faces on camera. Now, we made this decision 2.5 years ago to put these faces on camera so you can see me when I'm talking to you about stuff like this. And I get that, but I don't think you should be putting yourself at risk. If you've got your money on Binance, every single possible security thing you can do, you should do. In real life, you should probably consider having 2 phones. One to use for everyday calls and one to use for crypto. So if you've got $50,000 to $100,000, you should have a second phone. And that second phone should have a phone number attached to it. That is a pay-as-you-go or whatever it might be, so it doesn't cost you anything. And that phone number should only be used for accessing Binance or any other exchange you're on. And that phone should never leave the house. It should be in a safe. SIM swap attacks happen. And if you live in somewhere where it's easy to swap SIM cards, then you're going to be, that's one possible way of getting it out. The other is to put it onto a ledger or a Trezor or a OneKey or something like that and keep it safe. And then you take that wallet and you go and put it in a physical safe or a safety deposit box. And that's what you do. You keep it safe. I cannot stress enough how this is not important to you until it is. This is absolutely one of the most important things you can do. After the security of making sure that you can't get hacked, making sure that nobody knows what you do is also important. So don't go around wearing a Binance t-shirt or don't go around wearing a Bitcoin t-shirt, okay? You know, be like the guy in what's it called? Scooby-Doo, the caretaker. Be a caretaker, wear a duffel coat and a mask. Keep yourself safe. That's the most important thing. Now, we've got to the end of the stream. I've done really well today, 11:53. We've managed to get to the end of the stream. I am trying to get them done in an hour, okay? So if I go to an hour and 2 or 55 minutes, that's what I'm aiming for. I don't want to keep you too long. Now, tomorrow is the quiz night. Now, since you're all here, I'm going to give you some clues. Everything we're going to talk about in the quiz tomorrow night is going to be about Maple. We're going to ask you questions about their tokens. We're going to ask you tokens about who they are. We're going to ask you about what they do. We're going to ask you about their partnerships. We're going to ask you about pretty much everything I've ever made in a video. So if you want to win this quiz tomorrow night, and there's 30 questions again, but remember, as we said last week, not everyone will get 30 out of 30. And I'm not playing this week. I'm not allowed. Been banned. Watch the videos we've made about Maple. Go and read the tweets that I've put up about Maple, and you will get more right than most other people, okay? Now, we know Mary, and we know Danny, and we know KB win the majority of these quizzes. Now, this is your chance. Danny could know every logo in the world and not win this quiz tomorrow. KB could know the price of every token and the circulating supply of every token in the world, and he would not win this quiz. You need to know something about Maple. There will probably be Maple people in chat. Some of the ambassadors are going to come along and play the game, whatever it might be. They've got a really good chance of winning this quiz tomorrow. Now, the prizes, I don't know what we're going to pay you in. Probably about $30 in prize money, but I don't know what we're going to pay you in. Maybe we'll pay you in syrup. Maybe we'll pay you in syrup USDC because that's on Solana. Now, this is not a sponsored quiz. We've been paid nothing by Maple to do this quiz. We are an ambassador, of course, but for this quiz, we've been given no prize money. We've not been given anything. So this is coming out of our pockets, which is why it's not $100 or anything like that. But I'd love to see a lot of you there having a crack at it. We are going to make it fun. It's going to be the same format as it was last Wednesday, and you'll learn a little bit about Maple. You know, you'll learn a little bit about how they work, how they operate. We'll be talking you through some of the things as well that are in the quiz. We're going to tell you a little bit about, you know, the background of the company and stuff like that. So the quiz is going to be at 7 o'clock. We're going to start the quiz about 7:15. So you'll have about 10 or 15 minutes to be late. So if you're Tariq and you're 5 minutes late, or Manjeet and you're 5 minutes late, then that's fine. But we've got 30 questions in 45 minutes. Now, that's plenty of time to get through the quiz. But remember, it's a quiz. If we ask you a question, you just have to answer the question. We're not going to be able to talk you through the questions and the answers. We're going to say, what is Maple's TVL? Is it 1 billion, 10 billion, or 100 billion? It's your job to then answer that question. It's nobody else's job to ask a question in chat. What does TVL mean? Total value locked. It's not our job to explain the questions. They're going to be easy questions. I've had them run through Maple. So that's pretty much it. Right. I'm going to go 3 minutes early because the Rode Pro microphones and the Sennheiser are arriving hopefully in the next few hours. And I will be able to speak a lot clearer tomorrow. Now, I don't think there's a stream tomorrow morning or Thursday morning. So I will be back tomorrow night with the Oracle, and I will be back on Friday. Now, the Oracle is streaming today at 9 p.m. So that is 9 hours from now. The Oracle is streaming, and he will be streaming about Solana projects. So as far as I'm aware, he's looking at SPX, he's looking at COM, Camino, KMNO, he's looking at a few projects like that. So real projects that are not pump and dumps or scams, but he's going to be doing that at 9 o'clock. So I will paste the link to that in Telegram. If you can make it, make it. If you can't, you can't. Now, where he is streaming doesn't require a login or a KYC. Sorry, it does require a login, but it doesn't require any KYC or anything crazy like that. So make sure to check that out. But until tomorrow, have a great day. Let's hope we break 111,000 today, and I'll see you all tomorrow.